Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crumble Takes, and on today's video, this is going to be my official mock draft to the first round. Now, with the draft coming up, I'm currently recording this on Tuesday, April 25th, with the draft 2 days away. I think it was time for me to do my official mock draft. This is kind of based on predictions and how things should go, in my opinion, and what these teams should pick. So, if you could please subscribe to the channel, drop a like, it really helps out this channel. I love all y'all. We just hit 400. I appreciate all the 400 of you that are subscribed to my channel. Leave a comment. I want to know who you want your team to draft in the first round. Like, who is your ideal player for your team? Now, we're only going to do the first round because I feel like first round would just be the best to do. Also, we're doing this with no trades because PFF is kind of greedy and they want my money for trades, but like Arizona pick might get traded and I feel like they should get traded, but I don't know officially if he's going to get traded yet. So let's get into it. Let's enter the draft, and this is the full first round. So, with the first pick, let's start the draft. With the first pick, the Carolina Panthers are going to be on the clock. Now, there is some news on Twitter today that came out that the Panthers might draft Will Levis. Yeah, to me, that's crazy. I have no idea why people would think that. Some Redditor thinks that. But, in my opinion, even though the Vegas odds shifted, I still got them taking Bryce Young, number 1 overall. Bryce Young is my favorite quarterback in this draft. I was a huge fan of him when he was at Alabama, so I still think they take Bryce Young. I know it was on CJ for a little bit, but I feel like Bryce Young is the way that they go. Now, the number 2 pick is very interesting. The Houston Texans really need a quarterback, but there's something that's very odd with them, and I think they might not take a QB here. I think they're really in love with Will Anderson. So you know what? My personal opinion, I think at this rate, number 2 is going to be Will Anderson out of Alabama, an amazing edge rusher, one of the best seasons he had. I think it was a 2021 season, all around amazing season from Will Anderson. Definitely a super high edge rusher in this draft. Next up on the clock is the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this is the pick that I think could be traded to a QB needy team like the Titans or the Raiders, maybe on draft night. But as of right now, Arizona still has this pick. Now, this is a very, very interesting pick for a team like Arizona. Because one, they have their quarterback. They have Kyler Murray, even though he did tear his ACL. So they kind of do need a lot of things. But I feel like the thing that they are going to go after and the thing that would be the best for them would be Tyrese Wilson, the edge out of Texas Tech. He was an all-around monster, and I feel like he can definitely be one of the best edge rushers in this league. So I personally have them taking Tyrese Wilson 3rd overall. Hold on. Oops. Tyrese. All right, 4, we have the Indianapolis Colts. Colts, do not mess this pick up. This pick, they need a quarterback. This pick shouldn't even be like, they shouldn't hesitate to make this pick if he's still here. Don't even think about it. No, please do not draft Will Levis. I will be so sad if the Indianapolis Colts draft Will Levis. What they should do is take CJ Stroud out of Ohio State. Definitely one of my favorite, my second favorite, my QB2 in this draft, actually. Definitely that's my second favorite quarterback in this draft. All around amazing years at Ohio State. I think he can also be a top quarterback if everything pans out for him well. I definitely think he has a better chance of him being a good quarterback than Will Levis. Like, I don't want to be a huge Will Levis hater in this video, but like I said, I don't think Will Levis is going to go to one of these top teams that are in need of quarterback. So at the number 5 spot, I personally have the Seattle Seahawks selecting Jalen Carter. Now, this pick could get very interesting to say the least. They could pick Anthony Richardson if they wanted to, maybe have their quarterback of the future. But in my personal opinion, I think they should pick Jalen Carter. That's definitely the best pick for them. I think they need to help out that run D. Josh Jacobs had a field day on that thing last year, and I think that run D is a problem. So I feel like taking Jalen Carter definitely would not be a bad idea. At number 6, we have the Detroit Lions on the clock. Now, I feel like a great pick right here, in my personal opinion, would be Devin Witherspoon. Now, why, you might ask, Witherspoon? Well, listen to this pick. They just traded away Jeff Okudah, so I think they kind of need a corner. I think it'd be pretty smart to draft a corner. Now, you got Witherspoon, an amazing corner in college. I feel like he can be great in the NFL. I know he's going top 6, but I feel like their biggest need is definitely a cornerback. Well, not their biggest need, but I'd say one of their biggest needs is probably a cornerback because they traded Okudah. I feel like he could definitely definitely be in that spot for Okudah and be great. So, a very Las Vegas Raider pick. This really gets interesting because they need a QB. And there's a QB that I feel like they would take right here. And in my personal opinion, I think they're going to take Will Levis. Why? I think Will Levis is a big Carson Wentz type quarterback. I think he's going to have like a kind of mid rookie year if he does start, but I guarantee you Jimmy will start. So I think he probably would sit behind Jimmy in this situation. So I still think they're going to take Will Levis, but I definitely think maybe with the right weapons around him, I mean, he would have Josh Jacobs. Who else they got there? Renfro. They just got Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams. They would have some nice pieces for him to maybe be successful if he were to start the next year. Now we have the Atlanta Falcons. Now the Falcons, it's saying that their biggest need is a QB, but I think they're going to actually roll with Ritter next year, which I actually really like the idea of them rolling with Ritter next year. So in my personal opinion, I think that the Atlanta Falcons are actually going to take Nolan Smith right here, a great edge rusher out of Georgia, because they definitely are going to need some help on that defense. That defense has been kind of very mid, and kind of poor recently. So I feel like Nolan Smith, the way that he played in college, I definitely think he'll be able to add to that needed edge rusher position for the Atlanta Falcons. Chicago Bears here, they definitely need some O-line help for Justin Fields. That man, Justin Fields, ran around by himself all year. You know, he was just all out running everywhere because he honestly had no help on the O-line. Now, in my personal opinion, I think right here, they're going to go ahead and take Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State, just because I feel like they would like Paris Johnson Jr. and I've seen some film of Paris Johnson Jr. and I feel like he is a great tackle, and I definitely think he would fit Chicago and maybe help out Justin Fields. I mean, they both went to Ohio State, so maybe that's a little bit of connection they got there. At 10, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this is also a very interesting thing. They should take a defensive player right here, but here's what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to get a little luxury here, a little fancy, because they got this top 10 pick. Bijan Robinson at number 10, in my personal opinion, for the Philadelphia Eagles. Why? It's an Eagles pick to make. They need a running back. Miles Sanders is now gone. Bijan is supposed to be a generational running back, an amazing running back, as Luke Shawhook says on Twitter. I think he is going to be an amazing running back, and I feel like taking Bijan, it would just help the Eagles even more. Now, also, I've been reading into it. They might take Jackson and Jigma Smith. That's been like a huge thing between them. But right now, I still have them taking Bijan Robinson. At pick 11, I think the Tennessee Titans are in a kind of a bad position here, I would say. Their team is kind of old. They let a whole bunch of people go. They're in a bad position. They're going to be bad. The only thing they really have is Derrick Henry. So at number 11, they got two quarterbacks on the roster. Ryan Tannehill, who is getting old. He's getting up there in age. And Malik Willis, they don't believe in him. So I feel like the right move here for the Titans would be to either they tank for Caleb, but I think what they should do here is draft Anthony Richardson if he manages to fall all the way down to pick 11. He's a quarterback. They're going to need a quarterback definitely in the future if they're going to really give up on Malik Willis. I mean, he was a project quarterback most definitely, but if they're going to give up on him, Anthony Richardson should definitely sit behind Ryan Tannehill or some veteran for a year. So like something can happen in Tennessee because they're going to be bad and they're going to have to do something to change it up. At number 12, we have the Houston Texans once on the clock again. Now, like I said earlier, we have the Texans taking Will Anderson, so now they're at 12. Now here, they could get a little fancy here too. There is a certain wide receiver right here named Jackson Smith-Njigba that is just sitting here. So if Anthony Richardson were to somehow fall to 12, I think they could take AR-15 here at 12. But I think they're going to go a little fancy here. Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be a Houston Texan. Definitely is going to be used to probably pair up with a guy that they draft next year in next year's draft because they're going to be trash. Davis Mills might end up starting another year. Like I said earlier, I don't think the Texans should draft Will Anderson. I think they should draft Stroud if Carolina does take Bryce Young, but I feel like they're too in love with Will Anderson. 13, the Packers need a tight end, and they got 2 picks in the first round. So I think they're going to get also not a little fancy because tight end is a huge need. I think they're going to take the tight end out of Utah right here, Dalton. I think he's going to be a great tight end, definitely something the Packers could use. I think they're going to take him at 13. Patriots at 14. They are in need of a playmaker. Their offense was so bland next year. So if the Patriots are smart, this is what they're going to do. They're going to take one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft. Definitely could be a playmaker. They're going to take Zay Flowers out of Boston College. Definitely, I've watched a lot of Zay Flowers take because he could maybe fall to the Ravens. But I definitely think they should take Zay Flowers to get a type of playmaker on the field because they don't have a lot of playmakers besides like Ramondre Stevenson. Jacoby Myers is gone. Their offense is kind of bland, and it's not good that it's kind of bland. So definitely they need to think about changing up some here. At 15, this is perfect for the Jets. Peter Swansky. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that name. Peter, the tackle out of Northwestern, falls to them. They're in need of a tackle. Get him another weapon to help Aaron Rodgers now at quarterback, something that can help protect him. Washington's also in a huge, interesting position here. They're in need of a lot of stuff, but I think this is where Christian Gonzalez gets taken off the board. They get a new cornerback to use in the future. Something that a lot of people have said he's the best corner in this draft. I think Witherspoon is, though. Definitely some huge corner help on that Washington defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, Pittsburgh. This is gonna be a very Pittsburgh, I think, pick in my opinion. Listen, I personally think the Steelers are, for some reason, I think the Steelers really like Joey Porter Jr. I know they don't necessarily need a cornerback, but I feel like a pick for them to make would be Joey Porter Jr. Definitely, I think he can evolve into an amazing corner, so I definitely think here Joey Porter Jr. comes off the board to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But they could also take O-line there too. I think that's something else that can be in the conversation. Detroit Lions, they're back on the board once again. Now here's where it gets nice for Detroit. Already taking Witherspoon, they're going to go ahead and take Myles Murphy out of Clemson. Myles Murphy's going to fall down the 18th. They add another edge rusher to that defense. This defense might be really, really good in a few years, and I'm kind of excited to see this defense full potential in Detroit. But for sure, definitely, it's going to be nice if they take Myles Murphy, if they get Myles Murphy and Devon Witherspoon. Tampa Bay, they're in a bad situation. They need probably everything besides like receiver maybe. But yeah, Tampa definitely in a bad position. You can see one of their needs is DI. I think K-Jack Cansey, I probably butchered that name, definitely could fit them. But Brian Branch is also here, and they could be potential use of a safety. So I think Brian Branch, a great safety in this draft class, falls down to Tampa at 19. Now Seattle at pick 20 with the Seattle Seahawks. They're in need of a guard. I think they had a whole bunch of kind of like rookies and some unexperienced players. So I feel like at that guard position, they can go ahead and take Otyrus Torrance out of Florida. Definitely a guard to help that much needed guard position. This is where it gets interesting for the Chargers. The Chargers are here at 21. They are in need of a wide receiver, but I don't feel like they're gonna go wide receiver. For some odd reason, I feel like they're gonna be like, we're gonna worry about something else. And this is where it's gonna get interesting. There is definitely some interesting things, some interesting talent left here in this draft, such as Lucas Van Ness. But they're definitely they're also in need of a linebacker. So if you go to linebackers, there isn't a lot of good linebackers left. So actually, you know what, guys? I actually lied. They're gonna go wide receiver, and as a Ravens fan, for some reason I feel like I'm gonna be heartbroken here. Why? I feel like Jordan Addison is gonna sneakily get off the board at 21, and he's gonna end up being a Charger. Very, very saddening. But for some reason, I feel like the Chargers they're gonna sneak us just a little bit. So now the Ravens are on the clock. My favorite team. Definitely, yes, we're in need of a wide receiver and cornerback. Now, because we got Odell, I feel like the front office, we could definitely take Quentin Johnson here. But knowing the Ravens and how much they love their defense, they're going to take Deonte Banks, a cornerback, to help tab that CB2 position this year. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings, a team that's just all around everywhere. K-Jack Cansey is still here. I can't pronounce some names of these, I'm sorry. But he goes to 23 to Minnesota. Now there's a certain player named Lucas Van Ness that fell here for the Jaguars. Guess what? He fell because I feel like he's going to fall for a little bit. Because I've seen some mixed reviews with people on him thinking he's bad, thinking he's good. I've seen some mixed reviews. But I think he's going to fall a little bit in this draft. All the way to 24 to the Jaguars. They get an edge rusher to help in the future. The Giants, they're also in need of a wide receiver. This is where I personally think that Quentin Johnson will go. He's going to get drafted by the New York Giants because they are definitely in need of some wide receiver, a little bit more weapons for them. I think Quentin Johnson's going to go 25th. Definitely a project wide receiver for them. The Dallas Cowboys are now on the clock. Now this, Cowboys need a lot. They need it like, why am I saying they need a lot? I'm sorry, Cowboy fans. They don't need a lot, but they did let Dalton Schultz go this year. And this is where I think Michael Maher out of Notre Dame goes to the Dallas Cowboys because they let Dalton Schultz go. So I feel like they should help their tight end position, especially with Brian Robinson now off the board. Now I feel like there is potential for Jameer Gibbs to maybe go right there, but I don't think it's going to happen. There's a lot of tackles right here, and this is where some of these tackles are going to definitely go. Buffalo Bills, I feel like, well, the Bills, they're in need of a cornerback. I think Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State can go right here. The Cincinnati Bengals, in my opinion, I feel like the Bengals can never get enough O-line, so I also need a tight end, but I think the really two good tight ends in this draft have now fell. So I think they're going to take a little sneak peek on Antoine Harrison here out of Oklahoma. The Saints are another team that pretty much, they need a lot. They need a lot. They're in need of a guard. They're also going to be a super mid team this year, in my personal opinion. So here, I think the New Orleans Saints are going to go, actually, you know what? I think they can actually make a good pick here if they were to go defensive line. Okay, sometimes I'm sorry, guys. Okay, actually, you know what? I think the Saints could go cornerback here too. I think that's another thing that they could end up doing. Definitely they could go defense. But there is another pick here that is kind of interesting now that I'm looking at this draft board. And that is Will McDonald IV out of Iowa State. I think that they don't need him technically, but I feel like it would be nice for them to have another edge rusher here. So we're going to have the Saints take Will McDonald. And the Philadelphia Eagles are back on the clock with another pick. Earlier, they drafted Bijan Robinson. Yeah, Philly kind of stacked. And you know what? Because they lost some pieces on that O-line, guess what? They're going to get Bronnick Jones out of Georgia just to add more pieces to that O-line for them. And with the final pick in the draft, Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock. You know what? They're going to go ahead and get themselves Josh Downs out of North Carolina, and that is going to be the draft. This is kind of, like I said, this is kind of my opinion. This is kind of not my opinion. This is kind of why I think things are going to go. Some things I feel like if I look into it a little bit more, I could get some stuff different. But this is my personal draft, guys. I know I'm kind of going slow. I will definitely be posting this on Twitter if you want to see a better picture of it. But this is how I think some of the first round is going to go. Probably some of this is probably going to be super wrong. But I just wanted to make a video for you guys on my opinions on some of the draft. So I'll see y'all. I'm probably going to do a reviewing the draft video. So I'll see y'all when I do then. So, like I said, subscribe, like, let me know what y'all think about this. I know I'm not a draft genius, but I feel like some of this could have some truth to it. So like I said, subscribe, like, hope y'all have a nice day, and peace out.